Angus, sorry, on that, it's really interesting that you should say that, because only a couple of weeks ago I did actually have a dentist contact me and said that they actually got 1,200 new patients in the last year.
Wow.
And profit margins went back.
Huh.
And it's very much all about servicing as many, whoever, whatever. And then there's obviously retention and conversion issues as well, but there's clearly a lack of definition around those top 3%ers and putting all your energies and efforts, from what I can hear you're saying, around those top 3%ers to multiply the bulk of, the core work that they're getting in the practice, or good quality work they're getting in the practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you know who this is, and I will show everybody how to really personalise this, how to sort of personify who this, we call it an avatar in marketing, if you really, really, really know who this person is, then things become a lot easier. Does that person even want that service? I'm thinking about doing this new course. Is that appealing to this person?
Yeah.
We're thinking about renovating the practice or changing our opening hours or, any of those other sorts of stuff. We've got to look through that person's eyes and go, well, what do they want? Somebody said this recently. I hadn't really thought about this. One of the best branded companies in the world, in my opinion, would be Apple. And mega successful. I think in terms of market capitalisation, they're probably in the top 10 companies on the planet. And yet when you think about it, Apple's really only got a handful of products.
Yes, that's true.
Like, it's not as though Apple's trying to be all things to all people. I mean, they've got really only one phone. I mean, there's a few little variations. They've got basically an iPad and they've got a laptop. I mean, I suppose there's earbuds and a few, but in the scheme of things, there's hardly any products. And I just think we went through this process with a client on Friday, and I said to him at the end of it, I said, what's been the value of this to you in terms of, both in terms of dollars and anything else? And he said, well, actually really understanding this could be worth another $100,000 to the business in the next year. That was his figures, not mine. And then he said, but the other thing is the peace of mind. Trying to be, am I being dragged over this way or dragged over that way? Well, no, let's have a look at this person. And then, even to get to the point, I'm not suggesting you do this, where they walk in and whether it's them or not.
Yes.
So, this is, for me, as an underpinning to really everything else you do. I find it amusing. Clients I work with, and they'll say, hey, so-and-so's just contacted us, because every dentist would get this all the time. I've been contacted by, News Limited or an SEO company or Shopper Dockets or, there's just a whole swag of stuff.
Yes.
And for me, I'm going, in every case, run it through that test. Does that person care about it or not?
Yeah.
Like movie advertising. Well, if your ideal client's 70, that's probably a complete waste of money. They probably don't go to the movies anyway. So yes, that would be the first thing that we would do. The second thing that we would do, I mean, there's a whole bunch of tactics below that. I do like a good referral system. The system that we use with our clients would typically generate an extra 10 to 20 patients a month, and I've almost never seen it fail. Testimonials, yes, there is such a thing as an APRA-compliant testimonial. What a shock that is. Whole bunch of social media stuff. And I just make the observation, a little bit like Coke painting the town red.
Yes. It's
really figure out who this ideal client is and then bang, 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 bang. Get your Google house in order, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying you have to do everything, but run it through that lens and then tick, 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 tick. And by the time this person picks up the phone, Yolanda, they're going, it's a conspiracy. I see you everywhere. I've seen you there. Someone at work mentioned you. I saw something on your website. You're on social media. I searched the practice and there you are. That's, in our experience, that's the practices that get the best results, and they don't get the one, like you said, where they get 1,000 new patients and lose profitability, which is, what's the point?
it was very disheartening to see, actually. But I really love your, philosophically, I believe, you and I are very much aligned, because, very much I always see when working with practices is that the more you focus, you get far better, get better results than trying to just have this scattergun shiny object approach. So this is, I can absolutely attest this thinking around focus is actually very, very powerful. And I'm really looking forward to you going through it on the 25th of May in more detail.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love this stuff. And I think
I can see you're just as passionate as me about retention as you are to attraction.
Well, I guess when I think about we're in the process of preparing some case studies at the moment, and we've had mature practices that have grown as much as 30 and 40% as a result of adopting this for a 12-month period.
Yes.
And for a mature practice, that's saying something. So I just love seeing businesses win, and I particularly love seeing businesses doing that.
Yes.
When the trend is that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
The trend is more competition, more dentists, more price-conscious consumers, and if you can get them to do that, well, that's that makes me sleep well at night.
Yeah. And would you say, Angus, that going on the back of this, that what would be, do you think the biggest mistake is that dentists make when it comes to marketing or attraction strategies is that they do take on that scattergun approach? Would you say that's the number one, or what else? Is there anything else?
Yeah, because I feel like it's a lens to look at everything through, and I think that's what's hard. And to be really honest, I struggle with this in business myself at times. I'm an extremely avid book reader. I'm just looking around for the books that I read, and I was reading something on the weekend, and it's there's one of those animated movies. I think it's called Up from memory, and part of that movie. They have a squirrel, a squirrel turns up and they go, squirrel, squirrel, and it's a distraction. It's like this squirrel turns up, and I think all of us are prone to that more now than ever. I heard something recently that said basically, the reason that we're checking our phones so many times a day is that we get this dopamine hit in the brain. We go, oh, new, bang. And this stops that, gets the focus, like you said. And this would be the number one mistake I would see by far. I'm pleased to say I don't see too many dental kind of clangers, things where they've just epically failed. I must admit, one that I'll probably stick to my mind was a practice where when we looked at their top clients, they were in a particular suburb which had a strong ethnic makeup. Nothing wrong with that. That's who they wanted to service. And that was from the subcontinent. There was Sri Lankans, Indians and Bangladeshis, and all of their marketing had a face as white as mine. And I'm going,
goodness.
Who are you marketing to?
Yeah.
Are you
mixed messages. And lack of trust as well. That really reduces trust in the patient when there's lack of consistency around your messages, which does come down to that focus, as you're saying, and getting really clear on that.
Yeah, I mean, what you want is you want your ideal client to look at your marketing and your messaging and go, either consciously or subconsciously, they're talking to me. That's me they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that would be the number one mistake by far. As I say, not too many clangers, fortunately, but it's more this kind of, shot over there, shot over here, and then over here, instead of going, hey, there's the bullseye, let's really narrow in on that, and not worry about it. I mean, it's less stress and it's more successful.
Yeah. And so what are some of the things that you're going to be covering at the Attract, Convert, Retain one-day live training that we have on the 25th of May? If you could just give us a rundown of what you'll be covering.
I will tell people exactly how to do that. This sounds like a big call, but I would go so far as to say, knowing that in intimate detail and implementing it, that's a $100,000 strategy like that. I'm not kidding. I've seen that from clients that we work with. That I would go into. I think some social media, that's stuff that people love understanding about social media, and there's a lot of stuff you can do without getting your checkbook out in any significant way. We want to build the know, like, and trust. And one thing's for sure, my personal MO is that when you come and do a workshop, it's a workshop. We're going to do. bring your smartphones. We're going to make videos together. We're going to figure out how to do an APRA-compliant testimonial. I'll show you how to get your Google House in order. So we'll go into this in a lot of detail. We'll start here and then work our way through. The way I look at it, if you successfully attract and convert and retain, you cannot help but grow.
Yeah.
And that is the business that Yolanda and I are both in. So.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Angus.
All right. Thanks, Yolanda. See everybody on the 25th.
Okay. See you. Bye-bye.